Pasha Paroh, YNet7. Thank you for tuning. The replay. So, we got to get into these books. If you're on the social media, you already got the preview. You know we ready to dive into them. Start sharing this vibration. So, the cool part about these two is I kind of got them both at the same time. Some recommendations came highly recommended, and the coincidence was they both have the word light in them, right? And I kind of thought that was kind of significant in the timing of my acquiring the two assets. So the one on the right is New Light from the Great Pyramid. You know, we're great. It's all about this illumination going into 2022. You know, we're going to be shining, and it's going to be because of the knowledge that's going to allow us to radiate in our own life and in others. So I thought it was appropriate to start because that one's going to be a little heavy for y'all. You know what I mean? So I think I thought about it. I said I'm going to start with the dark side of the light chasers. That's the one on the left. You know, because right now I spend a lot of time on content for emotional health and mental health. You know, making sure that we understand that a lot of what's happening would be different if we had a better understanding and more control over our own emotions and our own mental. Otherwise, the outside elements are penetrating and getting in there and messing stuff up, and we may or may not recognize that we're even being tampered with if you're not aware of who you were to begin with. You know, so let's start there today. I got the book here, marked off a few paragraphs I want to go through with you, and then I'm going to drop like what I think is a good focal point to really tie it all together from my perspective with what this extracted from my brain when I read it, and maybe we'll pull a tarot card at the end and go from there. So let me get started from the book here. It says, in Love and Awakening, John Wellwood used the analogy of a castle. Okay, that's why we up in the castle today. All right, let me get you the shot. Let me get you the visual. You know, so you can be up in the castle too. All right. So, in Love and Awakening, John Wellwood uses the analogy of a castle to illustrate the world within us, right? Imagine being a magnificent castle with long hallways and thousands of rooms, all right? Every room in the castle is perfect and possesses a special gift. Each room represents a different aspect of yourself and is an integral part of the entire perfect castle. As a child, you explored every inch of your castle without shame or judgment. Fearlessly, you searched every room for its jewels and its mystery. Lovingly, you embraced every room, whether it was a closet, a bedroom, bathroom, or cellar. Each and every room was unique. Your castle was full of light, love, and wonder. Then one day, someone came to your castle and told you that one of your rooms was imperfect, that surely it didn't belong in your castle. They suggested that if you wanted to have a perfect castle, you should close and lock the door to this room. Since you wanted love and acceptance, you quickly closed off that room. As time went by, more and more people came to your castle. They all gave you their opinions of the rooms, which ones they liked and which ones they didn't. And slowly, you shed slowly you shed one door after another. Your marvelous rooms were being closed off, taken out of the light, and put into the dark. A cycle had begun. From that time on, you closed more and more doors for all kinds of reasons. You closed doors because you were afraid, or you thought the rooms were too bold. You closed doors to rooms that were too conservative. You closed doors because other castles you saw did not have a room like yours. You closed doors because your religious leaders told you to stay away from certain rooms. You closed doors. You closed any door that did not fit into society's standards or your own ideal. The days were gone when your castle seemed endless and your future seemed exciting and bright. You no longer cared for every room with the same love and admiration. Rooms you were once proud of, you now willed to disappear. You tried to figure out ways to get rid of these rooms, but they were part of the structure of your castle. Now that you had shut the door to whatever room you didn't like, time went by until one day you just forgot about that room altogether. At first, you didn't realize what you were doing. It just became a habit, with everyone giving you different messages about what was magnificent, or what a magnificent castle should look like. It became much easier to listen to them than to trust your inner voice, the one that loved your entire castle. Shutting off those rooms actually started to make you feel safe. Soon, you found yourself living in just a few small rooms. You had learned how to shut off life and became comfortable doing it. Many of us also locked away so many rooms that we forgot we were ever a castle. We began to believe we were just a small 2-bedroom house in need of repairs. So it continues. Now imagine your castle as a place where you house all of who you are, the good and the bad, and that every aspect that exists on the planet exists within you. One of your rooms is love, one is courage, one is elegance, and another is grace. There are endless numbers of rooms. Creativity, femininity, honesty, integrity, health, assertiveness, sexiness, power, timidity, hatred, greed, frigidity, laziness, arrogance, sickness, and evil are rooms in your castle. Each room is an essential part of the structure, and each room has an opposite somewhere in your castle. Fortunately, we are never satisfied being less than what we are capable of being. Our discontent with ourselves motivates us in search. Our discontent with ourselves motivates us in our search for all the lost rooms of our castle. We can only find the key to our uniqueness by opening all the rooms in our castle. Okay? So the castle is a metaphor to help you grasp the enormity of who you are. We each possess this sacred place inside ourselves. It is easily accessed if we are ready and willing to see the totality of who we are. Most of us are scared of what we will find behind the doors to these rooms. So instead of setting out on an adventure to find our hidden selves, full of excitement and wonder, we keep pretending the rooms don't exist. The cycle continues. But if you truly desire to change the direction of your life, you must go into your castle and slowly open each and every door. You must explore your internal universe and take back all that you've disowned. Only in the presence of your entire self can you appreciate your magnificence and enjoy the totality and uniqueness of your life. So, all of that was a great metaphor. You're this amazing castle, and society starts telling you, you shouldn't be this, you shouldn't do that. Why would you do that? And you start being like, yeah, that's all right. Let me close that off. Let me shut that off. Let me block this out. And then you become small. We talked about that often here because we talked about on YNet 7 the symptoms of normative social influence. And we talked about what happens when you actually are informative socially influenced, and you avoid all that worry and bothersome, and you actually make choices and decisions that are uncommon because, well, the truth is uncommon, isn't it? So the part that stood out to me in this great example here is when it was saying you could only find the key to our, or we can only find the key to our uniqueness, excuse me, by opening all the rooms in our castle. You know, how many times have you talked to someone and they said, oh, I would never such and such, right? Well, what it is, they don't know that whatever they're trying to avoid actually lives inside of them as well. They just haven't met a scenario or situation that brought that out of them. But it's in there like the rest of the universe. So what I thought was really, really a eureka moment was the fact that what I brought up is like, have you ever locked your keys in the bathroom or something, like some crazy place or something, right? Well, what I'm getting at with that is, if we go around locking all the doors or many of the doors to us, and at one point you were so impressed with the magnificence of these rooms, right? That means that there was stuff in those rooms. Maybe it was the view out the window, right? That you really adored. Now, when you close that door and you lock it, you've left all of the things that you've cherished in that room. I made a post today on Facebook, and it said, it was basically saying, it's a quote. Let me pull it up real quick and I'll give you the exact quote. So the exact quote is, we choose to forget who we are, and then forget we've forgotten, by Gunther Bernard. Okay? So the thing with that, right, let's take that and apply it to the rooms. So you had these amazing parts of yourself, assets, qualities, thoughts, thought processes, feelings, whatever. And you locked them away in all these different rooms for all these different reasons. And what if I saw the fact of, I think where some people have an even greater opportunity if they understand this. If they understand, or we accept, that sometimes we wake up and we remember and we say, hey, I want to get back into this room because this is what I want, or what I need is in this room here, or at least I think it's in this room. But guess what? You may have left a key to that room in one of the other locked rooms. And then to get into that room, the key to that door may have been in one of the other rooms that you locked. I mean, you got a castle with thousands of rooms in yourself, right? So it's not just going to be, you're not carrying around thousands of keys. But let's say there's purposely not a master key or a skeleton key. It's just a key for each door. So now you have to actually figure out where the other key would be to that door, so that if you want to streamline the process, so that you can then access that room, which it may have maybe you have the key to that right now, maybe you got to find it. So it's a whole process of rediscovering yourself, especially in today's world when you've let society dictate who you think you are. We've talked about being an American here. See, those keys are locked away in yourself, and now you're left with a small box that has emotional attachments to who you believe you are, because someone outside of us told us we were something, and we never verified if we were or not. We've talked about being a traveler and not a driver, because someone told us something and we never double checked. See, here we're okay with saying we don't know if the earth is round or flat, because all we do know is some stranger called your preschool teacher, maybe your kindergarten teacher, told you it was a ball floating around in space, and you've based your whole life off of that since you were 5 years old, at a period of time when your parents was probably telling you not to talk to strangers. You see, we've locked away parts of ourselves. Going into 2022, I want you to start looking for the keys. Let's look at what these keys might be. I mean, they could be different for depending on who you are and what you need. But let's take a look at some of the things here. All right. So we got, create a positive mantra. People that know, you always hear me say, it's always the perfect day. And they're like, it's always the perfect day. And, so the key I see with that is, often when you're playing the infinite game and not the finite game, what we learn is there will always be ups and downs in your journey. So to be focused on constantly winning is not conducive, because it's going to put you in situations where you're going to be at odds against yourself, So the trick is just stay focused on playing the long-term game, okay? And then You've accepted that there's winning and losing, but over time you're playing to be able to play forever. So that's part of the process. So you may go through something today. I need you to know that based on where you're trying to get to, that's a part of the game. So create a positive mantra for yourself, right? Whatever it may be. Physical distance, create that. Have borders for yourself, or what they call boundaries. You know what I mean? Who cares if they think you're a weirdo? Who cares if they call you crazy? Who cares if they say everybody's doing it? Make sure you're focused on what you want to do, okay? So do your own work. You know what I mean? You're going to have people that are going to try and depend on you for their happiness, for example. Just make sure you're not depending on external sources for your happiness. Know that only you can truly make you happy, right? Stuff like that. Don't shut off the negative emotions or what people may say is negative. You know, part of it's always the perfect day, for example, is you ever be talking to someone about something and their response is, well, they use the word complain, like, or you ever ask someone how they feel or whatever and they say, I can't complain. I have to tell people at times, look, you're not complaining. Maybe we need to look that up later and do a video on the word complain. But to me, you're expressing your perspective on some things, and how else can you find remedy or recourse for yourself or action to take if you never admit? Because acceptance is on a Life Vibe series that we did from the book Power vs. Force. And acceptance, you have to accept the reality of it. So if you hold it in and just don't talk about it, that's what we're talking about earlier in this book, where it's like you're locking those doors away just to appease society, please them, make them feel better, and meanwhile you're destroying yourself, right? So accept that other people may not apologize. Got the remedy for you for that right here. I tell people I don't want apologies. I don't want you to say sorry. What I'm more interested in at any point is what were you thinking when you did A, B, and C. And, you know, I've built a lot of these protocols in myself just from being true with myself. And then it's great confirmation at times to find resources and then be reading or learning and see that they're actually saying it in their own way. This is what you should do. You know, I didn't understand why I felt more comfortable just understanding what you were thinking. You know, I just knew that that's what I wanted, because that's me being focused on the equation, not the variables. I was okay with saying, well, I don't know what that person was going through, thinking, thought, whatever at that time. Let me extract what they were thinking. Let me get the details. Let me get the facts. What is the truth? And you give them an opportunity to tell the truth, and you know how that goes. Hopefully you got people around you that aren't afraid to be truthful with you. If they can't be honest with you, now you got trust issues, and you see that they don't need to be in your circle to begin with. So then if a person can tell you, just like I tell people, look, I don't give apologies. And the reason being is because whatever you're going to come back and say you're sorry for or that you apologize for, at that time that you did it, you meant it, or you absolutely meant it, or else you wouldn't have done it. So what would be better is if you just, let's focus on what you were thinking that made you do it. You know what I mean? Maybe if you share that with someone and or have someone share that with you, you can then understand each other a little better. Now, if you get to that point and they just continue to keep doing that same thing, then you know that they just don't care. And then you can make the decision on what you want to do with that. I have a habit of being dismissive and getting rid of people. But I don't often talk about why I got rid of them outside of them. I'll tell them, you know, and the gift and the curse with that is they may or may not, if they couldn't be honest with me, what's the chances they're going to be honest with somebody else when they ask what happened between me and them? They just see what they saw, and then they're going to make their perception of that. You got to be okay with that. You got to be okay with being real. You know, if those people over there don't realize that there's more than one side to every story and they just go with what they were told, then you don't want them in your circle either, because they're gonna have a trust issues and be disconnects as well. So it kind of works to your advantage by sifting out that mindset of people, at least until they're prepared. Maybe they'll grow in the future, and maybe they'll reinvent themselves. And if you're not too far reinventing yourself and growing, maybe y'all still see each other. You know what I'm saying? So another key here from Healthline is engaging in self-care. Okay? So like self-care is everything. You know, check out the video I did with Tamara Zenobia, and we talked about wellness. You know, go back and watch some of the episodes on my channel and Trish's channel, Trish McCade, where we've talked about gaslighting, narcissistic actions, right? All kinds of stuff. You got to take care of yourself. You know, if you're at a workplace that don't value you the way you should, or even if you feel like the compensation is good, but they're taking advantage of you in some way, shape, or form, keeping you from something else you want in life, then maybe you got to transition, because that energy that you're building up, that toxicity that you're absorbing, is eating at you. So if you want to be better long term, you got to really deep dive into self-care and all of what that is, okay? Surround yourself with people who fill you up, they say. You've heard this before. Especially when you're like an empath, or you're like this caring person, and you know, people just take. And how many of those people even give you a thank you? You got people out here that you're responsible for so much, and they don't want people to even know they know you, so that they can get the credit from you, which is like the 48 laws of power, right? Appear to be the magician, but if you got someone that doesn't want the team to shine, then maybe that's not the team for you, you know? But the cup must first be full before it can overflow onto the saucer. So think about that. If you guys don't share the same community, or you don't share the same destination, your cup may be overflowing onto the wrong source of people. You see what I'm saying? And give yourself permission to talk about it is one of the last ones they got here. I think that's powerful, because again, you got to share what's going on with yourself, and then share yourself with others, because especially if you have the others that's going to build you up, they're going to encourage you to get that off your chest, and then maybe give you some insight, or maybe they're just going to listen. But I like it when we can talk about stuff, and then they may share something with you that's either going to say, yo, you right, seriously, or nah, what do you think about this? Or they may start telling you about stuff in their life that, because you triggered them to think about things going on with them. And that conversation is therapeutic for all parties involved. So, you know, people want to keep you quiet because, like we talked about, they don't want people to know. They don't want you to know how powerful you are, and they don't want people to know how powerful you are, because then you might go around and start helping everybody, and you know how they might feel about that. So make sure you got the right people around you. You know what I mean? Don't, as far as I'm concerned, don't be afraid to get rid of the people that you don't need around you, because if you hang on to them, what damage are you doing to yourself? It's not about them. They're gonna be great for someone else. Let them be great with who they're designed to be great with. Also, another thing with that, it's like you hear the conversations about, also it talks about in this book too, but like people come into your life for a season, right? And another thing I read in this book so far, and it was talking about how because of, let's say, those locked doors or deficiencies or thoughts about ourselves, the universe, because we're connected with that, will send us people that reflect what we don't like about ourselves, right? And it's an opportunity for us to grow internally from dealing with those people, right? Now, I had this thought. I said, what if the key is, once you've actually healed that part of you, you no longer have that need to mirror that side of yourself in your life, because you've satisfied your commitment to growth in that area. So sometimes you're getting rid of people not because, it's like a negative thing or a bad thing or an unhealthy thing. It's just because you've completed that class. It's time to go to your next, the bell's ringing in school, and it's time for you to go to the next class. Like I've said this before on the channel. You don't like if you were in 5th period in your 11th grade year and the bell rings, you hang out and talk if you want to, but when the next bell ring, at some point, even if you decide you're going to be late or skip, you're supposed to be moving on to 6th period. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to stay back in 5th period classroom, there's going to be some consequences to that, possibly eventually, right? Eventually. We've all beat 1 or 2 hall sweeps. Man, you know what? Speaking of that, quick story. You ever beat a hall sweep and then, when I mean beat a hall sweep, I mean like you didn't actually get caught in the hall sweep, and then you go to your next class and then they ask for your pass, you ain't got no pass, so instead of celebrating that you made it through that and you survived and didn't get caught, they gonna kick you out and send you to the principal's office because you didn't get a hall pass because you never got caught. And I was the one that would tell them, well, I didn't get caught in the hall sweep. So it was anyway. Let's get back to it, right? So and it says you can seek professional help if you want to, and despite how you feel about that, who's more of an expert on you than yourself? I think the thing is, what we got to do is, again, even if you're seeking professional help, you got to know when you go in there that you have a goal, and I would focus on what you got to do to get to that goal, because that's going to showcase the doors in your castle that's locked and you need to open up. Okay? And it's really cool when you're on like a level like this and you can maybe go to, I don't know, a therapist and talk to them just like you're a therapist too, and really have a real therapeutic conversation with a therapist, and then you're providing therapy for them too. It's an amazing experience, I'm sure. So I went ahead and pulled the card. I'm trying to make sure I utilize this technology for you, make it the best experience as possible. So I got the picture of the card here. It's actually going to be the 9 of Wands. And before we get into the Wands aspect of it and look at the card a little, I want to actually I wanted to give you the whole meaning of, like, the regular meaning of 9. I think it's quite appropriate. So 9 is selflessness and compassion. Excuse me. Encompassing a love for all, right? So all those parts of yourself that you locked away because you thought someone was going to like you better, you got to love all of, I don't use love as a verb, but I'm giving it to you what the book is and the common use for yourself. You got to be in love with all of yourself. So you gotta go back and open all them doors. Part of what creates separation between me is that I enjoy all of myself. You know? And other people get frustrated with it, or they get, you know, if Pasha says he wants to rebuild and restore America's greatness, you know, people start being scared and like, oh, we don't want to have that conversation. We're going to avoid Pasha. So you may wind up with less quantity of people, but you're going to wind up with the right quality of people. Okay? And remember, the key is, even though they're not in your circle, you're still in love with them too. You have to be in love with them enough to let them go be great for who they're supposed to be great for, because they may be toxic to you. All right. So it desires, this back to 9, it desires to apply its energy to universal service. You can't connect with people if you don't relate to people. Okay? And the disconnect that's often with especially with some empaths that are also have this logical side to them, or this analytical side to them, Virgos. People feel like you don't relate to them because you don't communicate emotionally. So that sometimes it's difficult for them to receive the message because they're looking for an emotional display and you're giving them just straight facts. They don't want it like that. So there may be ways for you to pay more attention to them and give it to them in a better way that they can digest, or just give it to them raw and let someone else come cook it up for them later. Chef Boyardee, baby. So it bestows an impersonal but just view of life. One that is generous, benevolent, and patient. You know what I mean? You're going to be okay with yourself, right? Check the card out. You can tell she done been through a lot. You know? Let me get the card here. You know what I mean? She done been through a lot. Because look at the fence. Look at the gate. And she got one stick burning, one wand burning as illumination. Right? So let me get through this 9 for you so you can get the full view, the full perspective, okay? Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Pasha Paroh Y97. I'm grateful for your attendance. So this is the artist and thinker who has developed skills through the preceding cycles and is now ready to share his or her knowledge with the rest of the world. See, when you were running around the castle of yourself, locking doors and stuff, for some reason they made you not. You were ready to share. When you invited them in, you knew all your doors was open. You know what I mean? And you was walking around saying, hey, look, this is this, that, check this out. And then they made their little comment and you were like, oh, is that right? Okay, let me close this door up. Now, what you got to accept is that's just one person. You may have had 50 other people in your circle. Now, when they come through to get their tour, they don't get to experience it. Those other 49 people may have totally enjoyed what you had in that room, but you'll never know because you let one person talk you out of being your complete self. Like that 5th grade teacher or the kindergarten teacher when you were 5 years old telling you the world is round, and now you're like, no, I know the world is round. Well, you don't know. You don't know. We don't know until we go up there and see for ourselves. That's the truth. But the truth makes people be like, oh, there's something wrong with him. He's saying that the world might be round or flat. Like he don't know what NASA told us on TV. Because we didn't research that all the stuff they showing us is CGI. Which doesn't mean that it's not round. It just means, why would it all be fake pictures and images and video if it was real? They would just show the real video. When you come on YouTube, people are out there showing you real video. Now you're paying NASA billions of dollars a year and they're giving you fake images. You got to ask yourself why. I'm just saying. So the reality is you don't know. Okay. So when you embrace all of that, you become this new version of yourself that allows you to grow and build and become even more than what you might have been before. So think about all of that, all those different parts of yourself in your life. You've closed that door because of what somebody or a couple people or a handful of people said to you, and there's over almost 8 billion people on this planet. So when it says the artist, or this is the artist and the thinker who has developed skills through the preceding cycles and is now ready to share his or her knowledge with the rest of the world, it's because you went back. If you close yourself off and you finally going back and opening up all them doors, you're like, you know what? F them. I'm opening up shop. We ready to go. Stores open. Stop. Drop. Shut them down. Open up shop. Oh, right? So the ions are in their final state of completion. They have traveled the entire cycle of 9 parts, ingesting experiences along the way. Right? So now in the closing cycle, they reach the total understanding and tolerance of others' views and prejudices. That's why this is the perfect card for you in this situation relative to that book. I really enjoy this. See, you understand and you accepted their perspectives, their prejudices, their views of you and how you should be in their views of the world. And because now you know who you are, you can share with them who you are. 9 is ready to give back to the universe some measure of what it has learned through the 8 previous steps of the cycle, right? So keep in mind that the law of cyclicity allows for no waste and demands input for output. This is why if you start closing all them doors off and then you go to create, where's your inspiration coming from? You had thousands of doors and now you only got 2 rooms. Your inspiration is going to be limited. You let someone shut you off from your complete full potential. When this is done willingly, the completion experience under 9 brings only joy at the gift of life and the freedom with which to enter the next cycle unencumbered. So your keywords are going to be love, compassion, patience, universality, tolerance, selfless service, and endings, right? And when you get into the cards, the 10 would be the next one, which is the final manifestation, right? And wands is all about your emotions, right? Your creative developments, self-improvements, and all that good stuff, okay? So you got your guard up with a gate. It's a makeshift gate. Definitely made in a hurry. And the one wand or staff is used to show a light, like a beacon. Look around you in this card. There's nothing else in sight. It's just you, the sky. You're not like battered enough, and you're not really scarred. But look at all of that vast space that you're claiming. And it's empty. Right? Or at least it appears to be empty. So when you open up your doors, you're going back into those rooms that you enjoyed. You know what I mean? It's about relationships. Okay? You have the light in your hand. So light your way. Light your way back. All right? Rebuild your castle. Restore. It's restoration season. I'm Pasha Paroh. Wide at 7. Thank you for tuning. The replay.